Welcome to Grace Mitchell's Stories, where every tale reminds us of the power of truth, kindness, and love. Today's story is about a humble maid whose integrity touched the heart of a powerful millionaire, and the response he gave left her in tears. The city of Chicago was buzzing with its usual rhythm horns blaring, people rushing, tall towers gleaming under the afternoon sun. Among those towers stood the Grand Sterling Plaza, home to one of the wealthiest men in the state, Nicholas Harrington. Nicholas, at 42, was a man of commanding presence. Tall, broad-shouldered, with piercing blue eyes and silver streaks in his dark hair. He was the kind of man who turned heads wherever he went. But beyond his handsome exterior lay a soul often misunderstood. To the world, he was the ruthless CEO who built his empire on steel and fire. A man feared in boardrooms and admired on magazine covers. Yet, those who worked close to him knew that Nicholas carried loneliness like an invisible wound. He lived in a sprawling mansion, just outside the city, a place of luxury but also of emptiness. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, velvet curtains, all the marks of wealth, but no laughter echoed there, no warmth of family life. His parents had passed away when he was young, and years of betrayal in relationships had hardened him. To Nicholas, trust was rarer than diamonds. In that very mansion worked a maid named Alina Ramirez. Alina was 30, petite, with dark, wavy hair often tied back in a bun, and deep brown eyes that reflected quiet strength. She had come to America with dreams of a better life, but reality had given her hardship instead. Her husband had abandoned her years ago, leaving her to raise her 6-year-old daughter Sophia alone. Every day was a struggle to put food on the table, pay for Sophia's school, and keep the tiny apartment they lived in. Yet, despite her hardships, Alina carried herself with dignity. She never complained, never asked for sympathy. To those around her, she was a woman of grace, humble, hardworking, and honest to her core. Nicholas had barely noticed Alina when she was first hired. To him, she was just another employee, keeping the mansion spotless. But over the months, he began to observe little things. How she greeted everyone with kindness. How she never wasted food but carefully wrapped leftovers to take home. How she spoke with gentleness even when scolded by the head housekeeper. And, most of all, how she looked at her daughter with a love so pure that it softened even Nicholas's guarded heart. One autumn evening, a storm raged across the city. Rain lashed against the mansion windows as Nicholas sat in his study, papers strewn across his desk. He was exhausted from endless negotiations and the constant demands of his empire. His thoughts were interrupted by faint humming drifting down the hallway. Curious, he stepped out and followed the sound. There, in the grand kitchen, he found Alina quietly washing dishes. Sophia sat at the table nearby, coloring in a worn notebook. Alina was humming a Spanish lullaby, her voice soft and soothing. Nicholas lingered at the doorway, unseen. For the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him, a warmth, a reminder of home, of his own mother, who used to sing to him before life had hardened everything. The next day, Nicholas asked the head housekeeper about Alina. "She's been with us almost a year." The housekeeper replied, "She works harder than anyone, never late, never careless. But," she hesitated, "she refuses to accept extra pay." Nicholas frowned. "Refuses?" "Yes, sir. I've offered. Others have too, but she always shakes her head and says, 'I only take what I've earned.' Strange, isn't it?" That evening, Nicholas decided to test this himself. After dinner, he approached Alina, who was polishing the silverware. "Alina," he said, his voice deep but unusually gentle. She straightened immediately, startled. "Yes, Mr. Harrington. You've been working tirelessly. I want to give you something extra." He pulled out an envelope of crisp bills, far more than her monthly wage. Her eyes widened, but she shook her head firmly. "I can't accept this, sir." Nicholas raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" "Because it's more than I deserve. You pay me fairly for the work I do. Taking extra, it wouldn't be right." He studied her closely, trying to read her expression. Most people in his world would grab money without hesitation. But here was a woman who refused. "You have a child to feed, don't you?" he pressed. "Yes," she said softly, glancing toward Sophia, who had fallen asleep in a chair. "But I want my daughter to learn that we live with dignity. We take what we earn, not more." Nicholas felt something shift inside him. He said nothing, only placed the envelope back in his pocket. That night, he couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind. We live with dignity. The next day, he found himself watching Alina more closely. She carried herself with quiet pride, even in her simple uniform. When Sophia tugged at her dress asking for a new toy, Alina knelt and explained gently, We can't afford it right now. But one day, we will. There was no bitterness in her tone, only patience and hope. Nicholas began to question himself. With all his wealth, with the empire he had built, what had he gained? Power, yes. Respect, yes. But dignity, integrity, love, he wasn't so sure anymore. Weeks passed, and Nicholas's curiosity turned into admiration. He noticed how Alina never gossiped, never cut corners. When she found a diamond cufflink under the couch, she placed it quietly on his desk without a word. When a vase broke by accident, she immediately confessed and offered to pay, though the cost was more than her monthly salary. One snowy December night, an incident changed everything. Nicholas had hosted a lavish Christmas party at the mansion, filled with laughter, champagne, and the city's elite. As the guests mingled, Nicholas slipped away. Weary of the shallow conversations, he found himself wandering toward the servants' quarters, where faint giggles caught his ear. Peeking inside, he saw Alina sitting on the floor with Sophia, fashioning tiny paper stars from scraps of napkins. They had no gifts, no fancy decorations, just simple joy in each other's company. Sophia looked up and asked, "Mama, why don't we have a big Christmas tree like upstairs?" Alina smiled tenderly. "Because we don't need it? Maybe that. We have each other. That's more than enough." Nicholas felt a lump rise in his throat. For the first time in years, tears stung his eyes. He stepped back silently, retreating before they noticed him. The next morning, he summoned Alina. She walked into his study nervously, unsure why she was being called. Nicholas stood by the window, his gaze distant. "Alina," he began, turning to face her. "I offered you money once, and you refused. But what if I told you that your integrity has taught me more than all my years of wealth ever did?" Her eyes widened in confusion. "Sir?" He walked closer, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You showed me that dignity cannot be bought, that honesty is worth more than riches. Last night, I saw the joy you share with your daughter, even with so little. And it broke me, Alina, because I have everything money can buy. Yet, I've never known that kind of happiness." Tears glistened in her eyes, but she remained silent. Nicholas reached into his pocket and pulled out the same envelope he had offered before. "This time, it's not a bonus, it's a gift. For Sophia, for her education, her future. Not because you earned it, but because you and your daughter deserve it." Elena's lips trembled. I can't take this." Nicholas gently placed the envelope on the table and looked into her eyes. "This isn't charity, this is gratitude. Gratitude for reminding me what truly matters. Alina, you refused money before because you didn't want to compromise your dignity. But this is me learning from you. Let me honor that." Her tears fell freely now. Slowly, with trembling hands, she accepted the envelope not for herself, but for her daughter. "Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harrington." Nicholas's voice softened. "No, Alina, thank you. You've given me more than money ever could. You've given me hope." From that day forward, Nicholas's life began to change. He spent less time chasing power and more time seeking meaning. He invested in schools for underprivileged children. Inspired by Elena's devotion to Sophia, he began to treat his employees with more respect, remembering the lesson of dignity he had learned from a maid. As for Alina, her life also transformed. With Nicholas's support, Sophia entered a good school, her dreams no longer bound by poverty. Alina continued working in the mansion, not as a servant, but as someone Nicholas now regarded as family. One evening, months later, Nicholas sat at the dinner table with Alina and Sophia, sharing a simple meal. Laughter echoed through the grand halls for the first time in years. Nicholas looked around and realized that his mansion, once empty, was now filled with something money had never been able to buy: love, trust, and family. And in that moment, he knew Elena's refusal to take extra money had not only left her in tears, but had also saved him from the emptiness of his own wealth. Because sometimes, the richest people are not the ones with the most money, but the ones with the purest hearts. So remember this: integrity cannot be bought, and kindness leaves an impact wealth never could. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Grace Mitchell Stories, where every week we share tales of love, courage, and hope that remind us what truly matters in life.